Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Peter Goldstein, founder of We Did It Health, and I have a very exciting series for you. We're going to introduce a series about processed foods, and we have a doctor, Dr. Camila Perussello, who's a food scientist. Her work, her PhD, is all about designing food, the chemistry of food, and the ins and outs of how to make food that's appealing and tasty and that we want to purchase. And with that, I am so excited that we're presenting a different topic, something that's of huge interest, and something that I think as ambassadors we're constantly seeing opportunities. I know that most of us couldn't believe how food is processed, what it means to create food, and and so now we have somebody who has the ins and outs. And so we want to know all this information for ourselves. And it is wonderful information to inspire other people. Most people would be curious about how they create food. And there's some amazing things that happen in the laboratories with the food companies. So there's good things and bad things. So some of the food companies certainly do it to manipulate us, and so many of the vegan food companies are using this knowledge to create foods that are vegan, that don't harm animals, and that are tasty and hopefully healthy for us also. And there's a whole variation on the level of health. So with that, I'm going to bring on Mariquita Solis, my co-host. Uh, and she's going to introduce Dr. Camila Perussello, and I'm not sure that Mariquita is here. So there she is. Hello, Mariquita.
Hi, everybody. I'm thankful to be here, and I'm excited about this learning experience. And, well, I guess it's time for the showtime, Dr. Camila Perussello. Come on out. Come on and join us, please.
Go ahead, Mariquita. You're at the driver's seat. Beautiful.
So, yeah, in this 6-part series, which is starting today, we will discuss myths and truths about food production and how food processing affects our health. And today we will start discussing how food is produced and what is food engineering. And I will also tell you a little bit about my professional background. But let me show you my slides. Can you see them? Can you, Peter, Mariquita?
So we're
No. Okay, here we go. There's the slides. Yes.
Is that the
We
right
have the
one?
right slides?
Yeah.
Which slides would you like? There we go.
I think we're okay now. Okay, right. Sorry about that. All right, so before I introduce myself in more detail and give you an overview of all 6 episodes, I want to start talking about the importance of food. Food has always been central to our existence. It's obviously our source of nutrition, but it's also our deepest connection with the world around us. If you think about it, everything we eat literally becomes ourselves. To many of us, food is our closest contact with nature and other animals. And it's mainly through food that we interact with other people and absorb cultural values, even if unconsciously. That is how powerful our food choices are. Now, if we think about the way we produce and consume food, a lot has changed over the centuries. For instance, in the Middle Ages, grains such as wheat, rye, oats, and barley were the main staples, and they were consumed abundantly in different ways, as bread, porridge, beer, and so on. For perspective, the average person would eat about 3 kilograms or approximately 6 pounds of bread every day. Meat, eggs, and dairy were common, but the consumption was far behind from the current daily consumption. Animal foods were usually considered luxury items, reserved for wealthy people or special occasions. And the knowledge on nutrition and food safety was quite poor, so fruits, greens, and vegetables were not necessarily consumed in their natural state because people believed raw food was a health risk. And for obvious reasons, local and seasonal food was a necessity rather than a social phenomenon. Since the 1400s, the world population grew from around 400 million to 8 billion people, a 20-fold increase. And thanks to the evolution of farming methods and food processing and conservation practices, we are now able to feed people with safer and much more varied foods. You go to the supermarket and simply pick whatever you want, both healthy and unhealthy options. However, with the growing human population and the demand for diversity and convenience, food production has become much more complex. When we think about food production, most of us picture only a fraction of the food chain, generally the farm, transport, and processing levels. But our food systems are composed of many different elements until the food reaches our plate. This means that different professionals with specific skills and expert knowledge are involved in food production, including food engineers like me. But what is food engineering or food processing engineering? Not everyone is familiar with these terms, and I see a lot of misconceptions out there where people confuse food engineering with artificial products or genetically modified food. But it's nothing like that, I can assure you. Food engineering is a professional field that applies principles of engineering, chemistry, and biology to the manufacturing of foods and beverages all the way from harvest to table, which includes post-harvest handling, processing, conservation, packaging, labeling, and distribution of food. Food engineering is one of the most multidisciplinary and specialized fields in engineering because it combines a broad range of disciplines, for example, fluid mechanics, biochemistry, microbiology, and heat transfer to produce ingredients and end products that are safe, nutritious, appealing, sustainable, and affordable. Food engineers can also design equipment and instrumentation for food production, for example, industrial dryers and fermentation tanks. So if you have eaten today, chances are a food engineer was involved in the production of your food, unless you grow 100% of your food or you buy everything straight from the farm, which is unrealistic these days. So what does a food engineer do? Well, food engineers do a lot of work to ensure that safe and tasty food is delivered to every store shelf in the world. So let me give you specific examples. Our main task is probably the most obvious. We transform raw materials into edible and varied products. For example, almonds into flour or cocoa beans into chocolate. We also work with formulation design. This means finding the best combination of raw ingredients to produce food with the desired characteristics. For example, we investigate ways to improve the taste, texture, and nutritional value of yogurt. We also find the best way to replicate the taste, smell, and nutritional and appearance of meat products without using animals. A food formulation can be also optimized for reduced costs, better safety. Think about the risk of salmonella, for example. and also lower environmental impact, which is important considering the high carbon footprint of food production. Another field is process design and optimization. This means finding ways to produce food using the least resources and preserving the health properties of the raw ingredients. For example, when we dry pasta, we determine the optimal temperature, drying time, air speed, and other factors. We also work with machinery design. So we all know that food factories use different equipment to make food: dryers, mixers, extruders, evaporators, and so on. If we take the example of food drying, the equipment has a big effect on energy use, food quality, and food safety. So food engineers help with that too. Packaging design. A lot of research and technology goes into finding the best packaging materials to keep food fit for consumption for a determined period. The shape and size of the packaging are also important, both for safety and quality reasons, but also for marketing purposes. Beautiful packaging sells more. Food engineers also work with product labeling. Legislation controls the information that must be included on the packaging. So food engineers make sure we label the products correctly. Another field is shelf life extension. One of the biggest challenges in the food chain is how to produce foods that remain fit for consumption for a long time, especially those that travel long distances. And this depends on a lot of factors: the ingredients and additives used, the processing method, the processing conditions, the type of packaging, the storage and distribution conditions, and so on. Food engineers also work with valorization of waste and byproducts. This may sound complicated, but it's actually simple. In plain terms, it means finding another use for the leftovers generated during the production and packaging of food. Examples of byproducts are fruit skin, seeds, rice husk, olive pits, nut shells, almond meal, and many others. These materials are very rich from the nutritional point of view, so food engineers find alternative uses for these types of materials. And when we talk about animal food production, and I'm not even talking about the ethical aspects here, but the residues are uglier and riskier in terms of waste disposal for obvious reasons. We have animal trimmings, gut contents, organs, hair, horns, and other non-edible parts. So for environmental and economic reasons, it is essential to recover valuable compounds from waste instead of disposing the waste on landfills, and also find different uses for leftovers. Another field is scale up of prototype food processes and equipment. We obviously don't rely on trial and error to find the best formulation, the best equipment, or the best process conditions. There is a lot of research and development behind this. So we first carry out bench tests, then pilot tests, and finally we scale up the process and equipment. Food quality and nutrition. To produce healthy and safe food, food engineers also study the effect of specific nutrients, additives, and contaminants on human health, as well as the impact of processing on the quality and nutritional properties of food. Food safety and regulation are also vital aspects of food production to obviously protect public health. That's why food must meet legislation standards, for instance, regarding pathogenic bacteria, genetically modified organisms, additives, and so on. Distribution and storage also must follow important criteria. This is especially important for perishable products, which can spoil even before they reach the supermarket shelves if the proper distribution and storage conditions are not followed. Research and development of ingredients and additives. The food industry derives ingredients from plants, algae, fungi, bacteria, and unfortunately animals. Also, additives like flavors, colors, and preservatives are used in foods to preserve, enhance flavor, improve color, blend, thicken, and so on. And these additives can be synthetic or naturally derived. So ingredients and additives are developed by food engineers according to food legislation. And last but not least, technical sales. Food engineers in this field specialize in the sales and promotion of food ingredients, additives, products, packaging, and food processing equipment. So, needless to say, food engineering is a vital job for humanity. Now that we have established what food engineering is, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my professional journey. This picture was taken about 17 years ago when I was graduating in food engineering in Brazil. Maybe this is unusual to hear, but I loved every single day of my undergrad course. The machine you see behind us is a pilot scale evaporator, which we use to concentrate liquids, for example, to make fruit juice, maple syrup, and tomato paste. During my college years, I also worked as an intern in different food companies. The food industry has its own dynamic where everything is fast-paced and we get to solve real-world problems. So this was an incredible experience. And I will sound very nerdy now, but I even miss our exams, where the engineering problems we had to solve were so complex we could bring with us whatever material we wanted to consult during the test. Scientific calculators, graphs, notes, books, conversion tables, anything really, because the important thing was to demonstrate our reasoning process and, of course, get to the correct answer. Then, over the years, my passion for science and technology only grew. So after my graduation in 2005, I decided to pursue an academic career. That's when I applied for a master's in mechanical engineering, more specifically in thermal sciences applied to food manufacturing. I got my master's degree in 2008. But I'm not going to lie, the first months were very challenging. I was super shy. I was the only girl among the students, at least in my class. I had to catch up on some subjects I hadn't studied during my undergrad years. So some days I questioned my choice. But thankfully, that feeling didn't last much, and I started to love it. My lecturers and master's advisors were brilliant researchers. I learned so much from them, and I even made friends. But now let me tell you about my research study. I believe everyone is familiar with soy milk, but what most people don't know is how the milk is extracted from soybeans. In simple terms, the soybeans are soaked and ground using warm water and a press. For every 1 liter of soy milk, several kilograms of soybeans are used. This means that after you collect the milk, the residue, the leftover from this process, is a wet mass containing about 90% of the solids from the soybeans. And this byproduct is called okara. Okara is so valuable. It's rich in high-quality proteins, good fats, vitamins, minerals, fibers, and antioxidants. But despite the nutritional value, okara spoils very quickly. So my research aimed at developing a drying process to transform this side stream into a valuable and non-perishable food ingredient. So from a technological standpoint, okara is a very challenging material to dry because the wrong conditions can either make the product too dry and dark or too soft, sticky, and prone to spoilage. So I created a pilot dryer from existing equipment in the lab, studied the process conditions, and transformed the soy milk residue into pellets that you can use as a meat substitute, or the pellets can be ground into flour and used in pasta and bakery products. This research was published in different peer-reviewed journals, including Drying Technology and Applied Thermal Engineering, which are renowned scientific publications. After getting my master's degree, I enrolled in a PhD program in food engineering at a top Brazilian university, Universidade Federal do Paraná in Portuguese, or Federal University of Paraná. As you might know, getting into a doctoral program is one of the greatest academic challenges. Each country has a different application process, but in Brazil and other countries, the traditional process includes an application form where you present your academic record, your professional experience, a letter of recommendation, and sometimes also a project proposal. Then, if the panel considers you a strong applicant, you will proceed to the next stage, which is a written exam. In the exam, your knowledge on varied topics will be tested. The higher your score, the better your chances of being chosen for the doctoral program, and additionally getting a scholarship. I went through all this process and I'm so grateful for this. I got first place. So in 2009, I started my PhD with a full scholarship. And years later, I also applied for a split site scholarship to spend some time abroad, doing part of my PhD research with a leading professor in thermal sciences in Australia. I was awarded, so I got to spend 6 months at Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my PhD research. I don't know if you have heard of Yacon, but this is a wonderful plant with many health benefits. Yacon is a plant native to South America, more specifically the Andes region, which is now grown in many parts of the world, including Europe, Japan, and New Zealand. The leaves and flowers are usually consumed as tea, while the root can be eaten raw or made into dried chips, syrup, or flour. But although it looks like a potato, it's actually sweet. It tastes more like fruit. I'd say it tastes like something like a pear. It's really good. So the roots are mostly composed of water and a special type of carbohydrate called fructooligosaccharides, or FOS. The roots also contain a high amount of fiber and minerals like iron and magnesium, and small amounts of about 20 amino acids. So according to studies, the health benefits of Yacon include the ability to regulate blood sugar levels. It also lowers cholesterol levels. It helps treat constipation because of the fibers and the prebiotic power of fructooligosaccharides, meaning these sugars stimulate the growth of beneficial bacteria in our gut. It also helps with weight loss because the root fills you up but has low calories. So it's an excellent food for everyone, especially people suffering from diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. Going back to my PhD thesis, I developed a drying method to make Yacon chips to be consumed as a healthy snack. Of course, health-wise, it's generally preferable to eat raw foods over dried, cooked, or processed foods. But processing is justified in many cases. For example, we can diversify the use of a given raw material, making it more convenient and appealing to consumers. Farmers can get more revenue from the same plant if they diversify their products. And processing can also avoid the spoilage of highly perishable products, reducing food waste. And Yacon is a very particular food because it must be eaten within a few days from harvest. In South America, it's very common to see huge amounts of Yacon go into the garbage because it was not consumed fast enough. So finding new ways to consume Yacon is a really good idea. However, the special sugars in Yacon degrade with temperature. So any processing method must be carefully developed to keep all the nutritional properties. So I studied a method called osmoconvective drying, which I'm not going to detail here because I don't want to overwhelm you. But of course, you can ask me later if you want. But anyway, we developed this method, and the product we obtained is significantly lighter and has a much better texture than the one processed by the conventional method. So instead of becoming dark and chewy, which often happens in traditional drying, the Yacon chips became crispy and light with a beautiful yellowish color. And this method also preserves the health properties better. This research was published in different journals, and I also published a whole book about this work too. I have also collaborated with other researchers testing different methods to process Yacon. For example, we tested a technique called foam mat drying to transform Yacon into a fine powder that can be used as a natural sweetener to replace refined sugar. I don't know about you guys, but I find this really fascinating. And if anyone is interested in checking my full list of publications, just type my name on Google Scholar and you have access to all the information. The address is scholar.google.com. Over the last decade, I have worked as a researcher, lecturer, and project manager in different institutions across the world. I have been living in Europe for about 9 years now, most of the time in Ireland. So far, I have published more than 30 peer-reviewed papers, several book chapters, and 2 books. And my last work was published this year. It's called Food for Thought, Planetary Healing Begins on Our Plate. This is an evidence book. This is an evidence-based book on the intersection of food production, animal rights, and human rights. It's been published by Lantern, an amazing publishing house based in New York. And the book explains why we need to change the way we produce and consume food if we want to live in a decent, fair, and healthy world. I will be talking more about this book in the next slide and over our course because it's fully related to the topics we will cover here, and it brings a vital message to everyone, which is we as individuals have the power to change things for the better. I also serve as a reviewer for more than 20 scientific journals in my field, including Food Research International and Drying Technology. I also run a business called Publiki, where I assist other scientists and students in getting their research published. Our services include proofreading, translation, and editing of scientific papers. And finally, I also work as a food industry consultant. I assist traditional food companies willing to transition away from animal ingredients. And I also help plant-based companies become more competitive through food tech solutions. So there are many plant-based startups with amazing ideas. So I advise them on several topics, for instance, how to extend the shelf life or improve the quality of their products. And yeah, so as a food scientist and a vegan, why do I recommend a plant-based diet? Because plant-based eating is a central element of a healthy, sustainable, and compassionate lifestyle. Around 10% of the global population goes hungry, while nearly 3 times as many people are overweight or obese. There is an epidemic of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, and this is largely associated with the consumption of animal products. Also, the production of animal-based foods is extremely resource intensive and environmentally destructive. Studies show that if the world became plant-based, we could reduce the area occupied by agriculture by 75% and feed a further 3.5 billion people. This is justice. This is food justice. And talking about justice, let's remember all the needless suffering trillions of innocent animals go through to become food every year. There is a reason why people run away from slaughterhouse footage. These are not inanimate objects. These are sentient beings who feel pain and fear. And it's not just animals that suffer in the production of animal foods. Working conditions among slaughterhouse workers and fishermen are really concerning. These people are exploited too. But this is not all. Animal agriculture and fisheries are the main causes of species extinction and a leading driver of the climate emergency. Studies show that even if we stopped burning fossil fuels today, we would still cross critical tipping points. So we must move towards plant-centered diets to hit climate targets. For these and many other reasons, which I detail in Food for Thought, I follow and recommend a whole food plant-based diet. Now, what is a whole food plant-based diet? It's very simple. A whole food plant-based diet is a diet free from animal products that focuses on foods derived from plant sources that are minimally processed. This would include fruits, vegetables, whole grains, whole cereals, legumes, nuts, seeds, mushrooms, plant-based milk, and so on. But unlike popular perceptions, a whole food plant-based diet is far from being limited or expensive. You actually save money by eating like this, and your diet can become much more varied compared to the typical Western diet. For those interested in learning more, there is a whole chapter in Food for Thought where I give practical tips on how to become plant-based in an easy and gradual way. I also talk about the health benefits you should expect and everything based on scientific evidence, of course, and also the challenges you might face. My goal was really to help people navigate the transition. And I know There can be different interpretations of what a whole food plant-based diet looks like, with some people claiming it cannot include anything that is processed, which I find debatable, because by definition, any food that is not in their natural state is processed, including things like sun-dried tomatoes, olives, and brown rice. These are absolutely not comparable to burgers, cookies, and fries. Which leads me to the big question. Is food processing good or bad? And the answer is, it depends. First of all, like I said before, not all processed foods are the same. If we are talking about ultra-processed food full of added sugars, artificial flavors, and saturated fat, yeah, of course it's bad. Is processed meat like bacon and ham unhealthy? Yes, of course they are unhealthy. They are carcinogenic to start with. However, other types of processed foods are perfectly healthy, for example, dried fruits and nuts. So, food processing helps us diversify our diet, and it also makes our lives easier. Can you imagine making your own flour? It's not convenient, is it? Processing also extends the expiry date of food that otherwise would spoil very quickly, which allows these foods to reach more people in different geographical regions. And this means we can reduce food waste through processing. Food processing can also make food safer. Most people are shocked when they hear that cashew nuts, which we all know have so many health benefits, are not edible unless they undergo processing. Unprocessed cashew nuts are super dangerous because there is a toxin in the plant and also in the brown oil inside the nut shell that causes skin burns and blisters. So unprocessed cashews are dangerous to eat and even touch. For non-vegans, can you imagine drinking untreated cow's milk? That's a huge food safety issue because of all the pathogenic microorganisms that might be present in milk. After all, it is a breast secretion. That's the biological definition of cow's milk. That's why thermal processing, more specifically pasteurization, is mandated by legislation when it comes to dairy products. Which brings me to my second argument. Not everything that people consider natural is healthy. Take the example of cow's milk, animal flesh, and some types of mushrooms. And also, the level of processing and the reason why a food product was processed makes a difference. Was the food processed to mask defects in the raw ingredients? Are some processing methods able to preserve the nutrients of the raw ingredients, or are they all bad? So these are some topics we will cover in the next 5 episodes to help you make the best food choices for your health and well-being. We are getting to the end of our presentation, so let's see the overview of the next episodes. Today, we talked about my journey career-wise, so you get to know a little bit more about myself. We established what food engineering really is, and we discussed why food processing can be both good and bad depending on the context. In episode 2, we will motivate the case for plant-based eating, focusing on the health benefits of a whole food plant-based diet. In episode 3, we will discuss different processing methods used in the food industry and how they affect our health. Episode 4 will touch on ingredients and additives. So if there is any specific ingredient or additive you wish to learn more about, please let us know, and I will try to include it in our discussion in episode 4. In episode 5, we will talk about food packaging and labeling and learn how to interpret food labels. And finally, episode 6 will be dedicated to the future of food. This will be a really exciting session because we will talk about some food technology trends we hear about all the time. For example, precision fermentation, cow's milk made without the cow, cultivated meat, and so on. And we will also discuss whether lab meat is vegan or not, and why the future is definitely plant-based. So I hope this was insightful. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to meeting you in the next episodes. And of course, I'm open to questions if you have any. I don't know if we can, I don't know.
That was wonderful.
I don't know if we are open to questions or not, sorry.
Oh, yeah, we are. I was looking at the wonderful comments here. Florence was saying there's a great book, eye-opening, called The Secret Life of Groceries. I'll have to check that out.
Wow, yeah, never heard of it.
No, I haven't either. That's very interesting. And then, there will be replays, and they will be on Zoom. So everybody watching, please subscribe to We Did It .health on YouTube. And actually, that wasn't right. They're going to be on Zoom, the next ones, and then they'll be uploaded to YouTube. So we hope you can join us for the next 5. And then here's a question. Where can you buy dried okara? That is so cool that she developed it. Where can we buy that?
Yeah, of course you can. In many health stores around the world, I see many here in Ireland. I see dried okara for sure. And actually, many factories that produce, for example, tofu or soy milk, they just give away okara for free, because then they save money on, for example, waste disposal. So if you go to, I don't know, a small food factory near your home, they will give you away like loads of dried okara.
All right, Kathy. So you know where to go now. Let's see here. Here we go. And you mentioned the probiotic power of Yacon. How can we modulate our gut microbiota for improved health? Fernanda wants to know.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good question. Yeah. So when people talk about healthy diets, they tend to focus on the intake of nutrients. However, there is much more than the intake of nutrients in terms of the health benefits of a diet. So, for example, when we shift to a plant-based diet, we may experience weight loss or improvements in our lipid profiles and improvements in our health overall. And this is not exclusively related to nutrient intake, or even to energy input. It also has to do with changes in the microorganisms living in our gut, in our digestive system. And so studies show that the gut microbiota of vegans and vegetarians is abundant in beneficial bacteria that provide anti-inflammatory properties, for instance, bifidobacterium. While, on the other hand, the gut microbiota of omnivores typically contains harmful microorganisms, for example, Clostridium and bacteroids. So these microorganisms are involved in inflammation and infections, and they also can cause antimicrobial resistance to a variety of drugs. So And yeah, there's another aspect. Beneficial microorganisms are also reduced in the gut of omnivores. So omnivores have more of the bad bacteria and less of the good bacteria. But the good thing is that our gut microbiome responds very rapidly to diet changes. So if you start to introduce more plant-based foods, whole plant-based foods, for example, fruits, vegetables, nuts, everything that is, especially foods that are rich in fiber, you will start um, to change the types and amounts of microorganisms in your digestive system. So it is possible to modulate our gut microbiota through a whole food plant-based diet. I hope this helps.
It helped me, yes. Thank you. And so this is, Florence is asking if this is daily or weekly. So this is every week, this next week at the same time, but we're going to be on Zoom, so you can join in with us. And then again, if you can't catch it, it'll be on YouTube. And please subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications. And let's see. And Soul Lighthouse is saying, thanks so much. Camilla, it was very interesting. I've never heard about Yacon either. Looking
Really?
forward to the next. Yes, never
You
heard
have
about
to
it.
try it. It's so good. It tastes like pear.
But you said we have to get it within 2 days, be eaten, right? And where can we get it?
Yeah, but it's produced like in many parts of the world, even here in Europe, even in Ireland. And the weather
Okay,
is good, and the climate is good.
I'm gonna have to go hunt it in Atlanta, so see if I can find it. And what was the other name of what Kathy was saying, okara, the dried okara. So
Yeah.
yes, I'll have to be hunting a lot of stuff here. And then let's see. But you have to know how to. But you have to know how to keep the okara safe to eat. Apparently, it doesn't keep well.
Oh yeah, it spoils very quickly. It ferments. I don't know, in a few hours.
Wow.
Yeah, in a few hours. That's why we have to process it very quickly, you know. And that's the reason why many food companies decide to just give it away or dispose it as waste because, they would have to process it very quickly.
Mm. And here's the secret life of groceries, the dark miracle of the American supermarket by Benjamin Laura. Okay, well that would be intriguing. Yeah, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you so
so much
much.
for sharing that. Um, and then someone is saying, I think I've seen it in our supermarkets. Well, let us know who you are and where you are, because I'm gonna have to go there and find it. Um, so does anybody have any more questions? So next week, what are we going to be talking about? Well, not me, but you, Camilla. What are you going to be talking about?
About the benefits of a whole food plant-based diet.
Okay, great. And I loved what you said about the your stomach, because I took some antibiotics recently, which I didn't want to take, and I remember going to a class, and they said that can mess up your gut biome
They can, yeah.
for
But
like
the
20 years.
microbiome recovers fast. So
Okay, good, because I didn't want to take it. So I've eaten a lot of fruits and vegetables since then. So I hope I'm good.
yeah, you probably are.
All right. And so I guess in Massachusetts, we're all going to have to go there if we can't find it, because that's where thank you for sharing that. Let us know who you are to find it.
Yeah, I think I should mention that I was on vacation in Florida last month, and I saw many products of Yacon in the supermarket. Yacon syrup, I think maybe chips also, but I'm not sure, but Yacon syrup for sure.
Well, that's good. I'm going to look now. I'm going to have to definitely. I mean, I wonder at the probably at the farmer's market, a big farmer's market, I could find it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes. And Florence is in Florida, so you should be able to find it. And also, Joan, thanks for letting us know. Joan is from Massachusetts, and she's the one who's seen it. So wonderful. This is so fascinating. And what did you always want to do? I mean, as a child, was this your dream? How did this even start?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a foodie. This is so funny because I always say that my life revolves around food for some reason. Like I grow food just because I like it. I have a backyard, so I grow veggies and fruit, and herbs and spices too. I'm a Taurus. I don't know if you're into zodiac signs, but if you are, you know what I mean, because everything is about like quality food. And I don't know. I think I always love food and nature and technology at the same time. So I think food science was, yeah, the best profession for me.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I love it.
What about, I know people say I can't afford to buy organic. And I'm scared to eat the vegetables because they're covered in pesticide. And what do you need to do to get rid of those pesticides? Can you get rid of them or not? Or what would you recommend here? Let's just say they can't afford to buy organic. What would you say?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Okay, let me start with what I do. Here, I try to buy as much organic as possible. And automatically, when you go plant-based, you save money on groceries. So just by shifting from an omnivore diet to plant-based diet, you save money enough to maybe start introducing more organic foods into your diet. So this is a good thing. Then here in Ireland, they focus so much on dairy and meat. So they don't actually grow so much fruit and vegetables, which is really sad. So I can't really find organic and local fruits and vegetables as much as I wanted. So what I do is I try to buy like as much as I find, but I don't obsess with it. Like I don't even know the percentage of like organic foods that I eat in my diet. I don't know, maybe 60%, 70%. Like I would not obsess with it, really, because if we do, we will never eat anything. And food is a pleasure. Like eating is a pleasure, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yes, just do the best you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a question from Kathy. How do you cook yacon? Like a potato or?
Yeah. Okay. So you can use, like a potato. Yeah. But actually, it is, like I said, the texture and the flavor is much more similar to that of a pear or an apple than that of a potato. So if you add yacon to a soup, for example, you might just melt it. If you use, the same cooking time and temperature as you would if you were cooking potatoes. So just use a lower temperature. But you can use yacon in everything, really, in soups, in or even raw in a salad, for example. Like grated yacon in a salad with mixed greens. It's so delicious. It's so good. I love it. And
that sounds
yeah, sorry.
No, I just said I'm going to look for it. You all have all sold me. Thank you for
You
this.
can also make chips at home. You just slice the yacon and put it in the oven for, I don't know, let's say half an hour maybe.
All right. Well, we can have that for Thanksgiving over here in the States. Here we go.
I hope you like it.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. I noticed that leafy green vegetables are the most expensive, especially because they reduce next to nothing. Yes, so ideally you need a few pounds per day. If you're on a fixed budget, then it is mostly root vegetables, grains, and beans. But leafy green vegetables are so important in the vegan diet.
Yeah, they are. That's so
Yes,
true.
that's a good point. Yes. Um, Let me ask you, I do have a question about your family. So when you became vegan, now is your whole family vegan or what did they think and how did that go over?
Yeah, my husband is vegan. We went vegan together. We were vegetarians before, so we went vegan overnight one day when we discovered how the dairy industry worked. So yeah, and it's just the two of us here. My family lives in Brazil, and my mom is a flexitarian, I'd say. She's almost vegetarian, except for fish. My dad, unfortunately, eats meat, but he's reducing it. And it's so funny because I've been vegetarian, I've been plant-based for 24 years, I think. Sorry, when I say plant-based, no, that's not what I meant. I was vegetarian for 20 years before I became vegan. And for some reason, after I became vegan, I started to um, inspire people around me just by doing my stuff, because before that, I was a vegetarian. So I would advocate for animals, even though I was hurting animals by eating dairy. But anyway, I was vegetarian in the first place for ethical reasons. I thought I was doing the right thing. I wasn't vegan out of ignorance only. That was the obstacle for me. It was a lack of information. But yeah, going back to your question, yeah, I think it's so easy for me here at home because it's just my husband and I, and we are both foodies. We try recipes all the time, and it's not only that we are vegan and plant-based. We are both the types of vegan who are really, we are into natural foods, unprocessed foods. So yeah, it helps. It helps. Can you imagine having a partner who's not vegan with you? I think it's more challenging, isn't it? I don't know how
Yeah,
it works. Yeah.
more challenging. Do you have a cookbook?
No.
That could be in your next project because it sounds like you got all these great recipes from foods that we don't even know about.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, well, this is wonderful. I guess we're coming up on the end, and I don't see any more questions. So we're looking forward to the next 5 episodes. It's going to be very informative, and it's really going to help people during the holiday meals to be more educated, to know to feel confident in what they're buying and what they're eating. And if somebody has a question about veganism and about processed vegan food, that
Yeah.
will be more able to speak confidently instead of just trying to come up with something that, we want to know what we're talking about when people are asking about veganism. So this really helps. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you
And
everyone for joining us.
right. Yes. Thanks everybody for watching. And we will all see you next week on Zoom. And so that'll be even more interactive. All right. So thanks so much.
Thank you. All the best. Bye.
Bye.